Leann with Walls Revived, the most amazing painting company in Edmonton. And we are going to be talking about what today?
The different kind of paint sheens and products you should probably use in every different type of room.
All right. That's a great topic. So people in the Edmonton area and anybody really generally watching this channel and seeing what's going on will get some great tips and advice on which rooms and which sheens and potentially which colors. So get us started.
Okay. So usually, if you guys are familiar with the term of like eggshell, matte, semi-gloss, what is that? And it's how shiny either the wall finish is, simply put. So straight terms, the shinier the sheen, the more durable. So you can, like, if you love washing your walls, then you'd probably want like a semi-gloss or a satin sheen, something that is shinier. Sort of like the middle of the road is eggshell.
Okay.
And you think, okay, I suppose if you take an egg and look at it and you see it's slightly shiny, but not quite, that's kind of the middle of the road. But every paint supplier product is different. So Benjamin Moore might be shinier than Cloverdale or Sherwin-Williams or something like that. So you can't really always match across the board. You just pick your supplier and go from there. But that's the basics. And back then, and I still get requests, or just like, can I have my kitchen and my bathroom, shinier? Or is that still a thing? And I'm like, not necessarily, because the paint has changed over the years. So they've made it a lot more like mildew resistant and scrubbable, whether it is or not. That's I'll leave that up to the users, right? But you can still do that if you want, especially if you like washing your walls. I would recommend like a higher gloss sheen. So that's for walls. And then there's trims. And usually you want the trims to be like a sheen shinier than the walls. So if we have eggshell walls, then you'll probably want a semi-gloss for the doors and trims. And mainly because we touch those more, Right. You're touching the doors and you got the doorknobs, but usually grab the door to close it. So you start seeing fingerprints, and to, easily wash it off, a semi-gloss, sheen is much better. I think I've talked before about how I've had requests to paint doors matte, like black matte. That's like the worst, because there's no sheen or very, very minimal. And then we have oils on our fingers. And as soon as you go to touch these dark matte colors, it's just fingerprint.
Right.
Yeah. That's all you see. So that's like the basics of it for walls and trims. And then there's variations, right? Like me personally, I love matte finish on walls. So it's slightly shiny, but not really. And then so my trims, I'll go like a step up. So I've got satin or pearl, trims and stuff. And then there's the ceilings that we can talk about. And we typically go flat on ceilings because you don't want any reflection. Typically, unless you do want reflection, then you can do whatever you want. But you have to realize too that like you can usually see streaks with the shinier. That's the other thing too. So if you want minimal streaks, and there's all techniques on how to, minimize that, but usually the less streaks you see, the more matte paint. So flat, you can't really see streaks, and that's the ideal outcome anyways. So I've had requests that they're like, oh, I want like an eggshell or semi-gloss on the ceilings. Depends on what the light coming in through the windows. Can you see it? In that case scenario, like it's best to spray the ceiling so you just have no roller marks.
Right.
But there's products you can add to the paint too to minimize roller marks. So it all depends on the situation.
So there's a lot of different things that you need to consider if you're going to DIY it.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't recommend that simply because you're a professional painter.
That's
and we talked last time on, DIY and why the jobs don't look quite right when they're done. It's really just experience with the product and knowing how to apply it and different techniques and masking and all of that stuff. So
exactly.
It's better to have somebody who has the experience. You can get it done faster too.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So let's go room by room or area by area. So
sure.
Let's say like the, main floor of the house, your living room, dining room, places like that. It's like, what are the recommendations for Sheen in those areas?
So, do you have young kids? Like that's always a question. Do you have animals in the house, right? So when I do the consultation, we like their lifestyle. How do we figure out, do they love washing their walls? So in general, Eggshell is kind of standard, but in the mud room or the front entrance, like let's bump it up or change the product to like a scuff resistant paint product.
Right.
And by nature, it's shinier. So, product dropped here, Benjamin Moore Scuff X, their matte is like an eggshell. And, the higher, exactly. So I do recommend like, Scuff X matte, and it's just like an eggshell. And then you can put Scuff X, eggshell on your doors.
Oh, okay.
And it's more like a semi-gloss or a satin pearl. So yeah, I think rooms that get a lot more abuse, front entrance, back entrance, whatnot, kids' room sometimes, let's bump up the sheen a little bit and it's just more durable and definitely easier to clean.
Nice. Now, what about places like kitchen or spice kitchen, as they have now a lot in Edmonton, and bathrooms?
Right.
Talk about those areas.
Yeah. Well, good design, there would be tile behind the sinks and faucets and whatnot. But if there isn't, then we can like eggshell is still good. And like I mentioned, the paint, they've changed it. So it's mildew resistant. Even like the Benjamin Moore bath, kitchen and bath product, it's matte. And it's kind of weird. It's like, really, that doesn't seem like it would work, but it does. It works. I know people are still concerned about, it's called surfactant leaching.
Okay.
And what that is you see it often in bathrooms, especially it's those ugly yellow drips, near the ceiling on your walls. And you're like, what the heck is happening? My paint is cheap or something or whatnot. Yeah. And you can actually just wipe those away. I forget the technical reasoning why it happens, but it's the chemicals in the paint and they're just coming up to the surface. And the extra humidity in the room, of course, it's a bathroom, causes it to come up. So personally, in my own bathroom in my last house, we changed out the bathroom fan. We made it more strong and powerful. And I still would get those little surfactant leaching drips on my beam because it was like really close to the shower. You just wipe them away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But you can just no, it's not. It is the paint, yes, but it's nothing to worry about. You can just wipe it away and maybe just run your bath fan a little bit longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So get rid of the moisture and humidity in there, and that will be a good fix for it.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
So other rooms.
Well, like bedrooms, and that's kind of like, just depends.
Right.
Standards is eggshell. Young kids, maybe bump it up or just use a different product. I do find and I go through the whole scope with my clients, and I tell them that I personally love matte, but you can't, like I said, you can't kill a bug on your wall. You're going to have to touch it up.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just the way it works. It's almost like, it's kind of like velvet, but it's kind of porous, a little bit rough, but then that's the one product. That's Benjamin Moore Regal. But if you upgrade to Benjamin Moore Aura, it's smoother. So it's a little bit shinier. So it all depends. It depends on the product, right? And the best way to, figure out which one you like is just buy little samples, and paint it on your wall properly, or 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 do it on like a stiff piece of cardboard or something like that, right?
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Now you talked about touch-ups.
Right.
So if you make a boo-boo and you got to do a touch-up,
Yeah.
let's talk about that. So the different sheens and touch-ups.
Oh God. Yeah. So the worst case scenario is I have someone call me up and they're like, hey, I want to sell my house. And there's various touch-ups around the house, you know, can you come? And I'm like, ooh, yes, I'll come and look. And I'm like, my first question is, do you have any leftover paint? And they're like, let me go check. And it's not necessarily, it's great if it is. But even if it's from the same can, when you put it on the wall, it's always going to be shinier because it does dull down after a while on your walls. Or if it's in direct sunlight, it might fade. So like that's the best case scenario. The worst is when they're like, I ran out of paint. Oh, I don't even know the color that we used. I'm like, okay, great. So what you normally do is you take a little chunk out of the wall. So you just take a razor blade and do about like, I don't know, 2 inch by 2 inch. That's probably even too big. You can get that top layer of paint, usually in a area maybe behind the fridge. What I like to do is remove the cold air returns. And sometimes there's a chunk there that you can just take and you don't have to repair. And then you bring it to your paint store and they'll manually match it for you. But then the issue, they might get the color fairly close, but then the shine. So that's the tough one. So that's normally what you'll see in houses. You're like, why is there like spots on the wall? Well, yeah, they touched up in a little circle or something, right?
Yeah.
So like the best thing to do is paint the wall section, you know, for like seamless results. And
right.
That's the best. I know that doesn't always happen, especially if you're on a budget, but you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's always a right way and a quick way to do things.
That's right. You know, and then we do know our tricks of the trade, right? Like the window walls, you can get away with some touch-ups because there's no direct lights shining on it because that's the source of the light, right? So, you know, or I don't know if I've ever talked about that magic eraser or, you know, I don't really recommend it. In my younger years, like 20 years ago, I was like, oh, I'm going to help out my grandma and get rid of all her scuffs, right? So yeah, you get rid of the scuff marks, but now you've got these faded marks all around on the walls because the magic or all those white erasers, they take off that top layer of sheen. So it's just kind of like, you know, dark mark or now a light scuff or whatever. So, but you know, you can get away with doing that in your closets because there's really no light shining in there.
Right.
And so, yeah, there's tricks.
Well, you're always a wealth of knowledge. So thanks for sharing with us. And hopefully, you know, people who watch this and check out your channel will learn something from it. And best of all, contact you for any painting work or jobs that they need done.
That's right.
Right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.